Okay, folks, it is Friday in the Robin's Nest, and that means that today we are going to be focused on vocal agility. Okay, we're going to have a talk today. We're going to have a conversation. Okay, I was working on a vocal arrangement last night, and I had this idea that I wanted to execute. And there was a particular train of thought that made the idea easier to execute. And so I wanted to talk about that with you all today and, take your questions and, hopefully be able to dig up some stuff that'll be helpful to you in your personal pursuit of vocal agility, just being able to move your voice faster, being able to kind of execute the kind of singing that you admire. You know what I'm saying? Because that's what it is a lot of the time. Like we're looking and we're seeing other artists like just achieve certain vocal effects and we're like, dang, I would like to be able to do that. Or like, I would love to be able to move my voice that way, right? We can see the power in being able to do things like that. We can see the appeal, right? We can see the appeal of being able to move our voices quickly and do riffs and runs and all that sort of stuff. And so, let's talk about just some ways that we can perceive what we're doing and make it a bit more accessible for ourselves, right? There's a way to think about moving your voice that is very helpful. So before we get into it, let me just quickly introduce myself just in case this is your first time hanging out with me. My name is Ashley Robin. I'm a singer, songwriter, producer. I'm also a musicianship coach, and that last part means that whatever makes you fully the music creator you desire to be, whether that's vocals, songwriting, ear training, or production, I coach in all four of those areas. I am your girl. I've got 2 degrees in music performance. That's a bachelor's in classical. I've got a master's in jazz. Been singing seriously, performing, teaching other people. I should not mix that together. I've been performing, studying music, and singing in a serious way for about 18 years now. And I have been teaching other people to do the same for about 13 years now. I'm a signed artist. I work with other labeled artists. I've sung backgrounds for live television broadcasts. I get called for studio sessions. I get called to run rehearsals and do workshops and all sorts of really fun stuff that keeps my life very, very musical. I've had the pleasure of coaching folks that work with people like Lana Del Rey, Burna Boy, and Pharrell Williams. And every time you tune into the Robin's Nest Live, I am your coach too. So the Robin's Nest Live is all about creating a space for artists like you and me who are serious about succeeding at the craft to grow together. And just so that you have the schedule, I am live every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday about noonish, okay? About noonish. But on Mondays, we do vocal warm-ups that promote our vocal health. I also take vocal technique questions on Mondays as well. Wednesdays, we do ear training. You know me. If you follow the Robin's Nest in any capacity on any of my platforms, you know I am big on ear training. I love ear training. I love scales. I love chords. And I love, making sure that, I and other people like me know the connection between those things. I love intervals too. On Fridays, we do vocal agility exercises. But like I said, when I first got started with the live for today, we are going to have a conversation today. All right. So pull up a chair. All right. Grab some water to take a sip, as we chat. But we're going to have a conversation today about some thought processes that can make vocal agility a bit easier. The way that we want to be thinking about the kinds of runs or movements that we want to do with our voices. What can we do to make it more accessible for ourselves? Okay, so that's today's conversation. And by the way, if you do enjoy these kinds of conversations, or if you're looking for a way to, just be in a position to always be having these kinds of conversations. Hey, is that Jay Nilly? Hi, I'm glad you're not too late. But if you're looking for a space that, where these kinds of conversations are happening all the time, a community that you can grow within, or even just a coach to guide you along the way, I want to remind you all that the March subscription sale is still happening. Okay, there is a sale happening on my Nest workshop series. That means you get to be part of the vocal, songwriting, and ear training workshops that I teach every single month that are going to boost your artistry. Secondarily, my Modes community subscription is on sale as well. That means you get to be part of the conversations that I have about modes and harmony with my crew. Okay, it's an exclusive community where all we talk about is modes and harmony. And then on the third tip, if you subscribe to private coaching, that is also on sale this month as well. So if you're interested in checking it out, the link is in my description. And if you're watching me on Instagram or TikTok, the link is in my profile. I would love to see you either in any of those communities, or I would love to work with you one-on-one, okay? So today's conversation is kind of revolving around this vocal arrangement I was working on yesterday. Okay, I'm not going to play the whole thing for you, but I am going to play this one moment in the arrangement, okay, that kind of happened. It kind of happened. And it didn't, let me say it a different way. It's not that it kind of happened. It's that I wanted to do it. I knew I wanted to do it. I knew I needed to figure out how to execute it, right? And there were just some things that I ended up relying on, or some things that I ended up landing on in terms of, hey, Raylon, some things that I ended up landing on that made it extremely helpful for me to do this, okay? That's what I'm getting at. There's a thought process. There's a thought process that we can have when it comes to executing runs. So this is just a quick moment within the vocal arrangement. Hold on, let me see something. Because I kind of wanted to see if I could like make my vocal like really clear and crisp, but it seems like the plugin that I'm using is kind of making weird like clippy noises. Maybe. I don't know. It sounds better now. I don't know. Whatever. Anyway. So here is the little piece of vocal that I did yesterday, and then we're going to talk a little bit about it. So here we go. Right? Super quick moment. I'll play it again. Right? So that instance, right? Like I said, I knew I wanted to do that. I went to go do it, and I'll admit, it was rough. It was rough at first, right? Because I'm like, you know, the tempo is 162. It's a cascading pentatonic thing. And so if you get too much in your head about either of those things, you're going to have it's going to be a bit of a bumpy ride, and that's exactly what I was experiencing yesterday, right? I had to strategize to get that to sound that clear and to get it to sound clear 8 times, right? But that's kind of why I wanted to talk about this today, because what I ended up doing worked, as you can see, like you can hear, the proof was in the pudding. It's right in front of you. What I began to think about in terms of like, okay, what would be the strategy to make this easier for me to do, right? And so what ended up happening, or I guess the realization that I had to come to with myself, is that I needed to get out, like I needed to not micromanage the run. I needed to remember that it's the way that I'm thinking about the run that's going to allow me to execute it in a way that is clear and, is not going to be janky. Janky, if you will, right? So, thank you for the follow. Hello, is it Cassiope? Oh, I said it right, but thank you for the follow. So yeah, it's the way that I'm thinking about the run that's allowing me to execute it in a way that is clear, that is like accurate, and that is fast. And so here's the thought process that I had to come to. I'm like, okay, I know what I want to do. That's step 1. You got to know what you want to do. I knew that I wanted to do Do, 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 right? That's pentatonic. In that particular context, it sounds minor pentatonic, right? But it's, either major pentatonic, minor pentatonic technically are kind of the same. We could talk about that on another day, maybe on ear training day. But I knew that's what I wanted to do. Da, ga, da, ga, da, da. And then go to the harmony. Da. I knew that's what I wanted. So that's step one. Step two, though, I needed to know, okay, where am I starting? Where am I landing? Okay, I started ha, ha. That's where I ended. Ha, ha, ha. So I'm spanning an octave. Okay. Now, granted, in the moment, I'm gonna tell you, I didn't think about it that way. Like I wasn't like, oh, this is an octave. I didn't say that, right? But when you train your ear, and when you, work on this kind of stuff in a way that's consistent, you're not going to have to do like all that carry the four and, calculation and da-da-da-da. You're not going to have to do all that stuff. It's going to happen in a split second. It's going to be lightning fast, right? And so it's a matter of, like I said, first of all, knowing what I want. Second of all, knowing where it starts and knowing where it ends. When our runs crash and burn, it's because we don't know where we're starting and we don't know where we're landing. Okay? So know where it starts, know where it ends. But, okay, well, know where it starts, know where it ends. Know the way from A to B. That's number two. Well, I think that's three now. Number one, know what you want to do. Number two, know where it starts, know where it ends. Number three, know the pathway from A to Z, or whatever you want to call it, right? And like I said earlier, I know it's pentatonic. I know that. I'm taking a pentatonic route from the beginning to the end. All right, cool. The fourth thing, though, was the clincher. The fourth thing that helped me do this is I had to stop thinking about it as a sequence of notes, and I had to think about it as an idea. I had to take all the, I had to take that out. I had to completely push that away. Because when I thought about it as like, deek, 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 right? It was affecting my neck. It was my jaw was tightening up. My tongue was curling up in the back. Like everything that gets in the way of vocal agility was starting to happen the more I overthought what I was trying to do. Okay? And so I had to push away the micromanagement of the run, and I needed instead to just think of it as an idea, one full idea. Okay, I had a really, really, really like formative conversation with a mentor of mine. His name is Chris Morgan, by the way. He's, shout out. I don't think he's watching, but if he was, or if he is in the future, shout outs to you. But yeah, I had a really formative conversation with him. One time I asked, he knows the things, all the things, right? So, I asked him one day, like, how do I listen to solos? I was having, and I had always had trouble with this. Like, when you listen to a jazz solo and like the player just starts to go, like it's just like really, really fast stuff, right? And I asked like, how, like, I don't feel like I can perceive that. Like, I don't know how to like understand what's happening, and I really want to. Like, I want to understand what's going on. I want to get it. But like, what is it that I'm missing, right? And what he said was so, so, so helpful. He said, and wait, hold on. I think I have to. Gret Hall, thank you for the follow. Thank you for the follow. But yeah, what he said was, you have to remember, and I'm probably paraphrasing what he said, but essentially he told me that when soloists solo, they solo in ideas. It's not like, well, not every soloist solos that way, right? I believe there's, I want to say it might be a jazz guitarist who is known for thinking about every note one at a time. Like that was his way of doing it. And so I'm not going to say that that's how every person thinks about solos and riffs and runs and things like that. But what he told me is that, when you listen to solos, what you're really listening to is like chunked ideas, right? And so when you hear somebody moving really fast, it's not like they're not necessarily thinking about every single note. They're thinking about the notes in a group that's creating a particular, or it's expressing a particular idea, right? And so that alone blew my mind. I'm like, oh, yeah, okay. So it's like, if I can hear the ideas that they're expressing in those big, like, right? Right? If I could hear the ideas, right? Yes, hearing the notes, like, especially if I'm doing a transcription, and you know how I feel about transcriptions. Transcriptions are excellent ways to build your vocabulary when it comes to improvisation and doing riffs and runs and stuff like that. So transcriptions are a must if you want to grow. But yeah, if I'm doing a transcription, of course I'm going to focus on every single note, because I want to know what every single note is. But just in terms of understanding what the choice of the person is in that particular musical instance, it helps in a greater way to think about it as an idea, as opposed to, in my case here, 6 separate notes that all have to be executed to perfection, right? Because think about it. If I'm thinking about 6 notes that I have to sing perfectly, like I said, it's gonna, like, all the works are gonna get tense. Like, everything gets tense, brain gets tense, throat, chin, tongue, everybody is like, whoa, you want us to what? You want me to what? Right? And so if I'm thinking about 6 separate notes as opposed to one idea, it takes the brain load. It definitely lessens the brain load. Let me check the chat real quick. Cool. Sonia, if you're still there, no, we're not making beats today. But maybe we should. Maybe we should very soon. And Cassiope, awesome. Right, just I guess viewing it as just an idea or framework allows you to exactly, literally. And that's literally what I experienced yesterday. So I'm in the booth, I'm working on this vocal arrangement. I know what I want to do, right? I can hear it in my head already, right? I can hear it in my head. But then when I go to do it, it's like, it wasn't that bad. But you get me, right? Like, it wasn't coming out. It was not coming out clean. And so when that started to happen, what you don't want to do, right, is just get frustrated with yourself and, oh, well, I guess I just can't do that. You know what I'm saying? Because I think that's a pitfall that some of us singers have. It's like whenever we come across something that's difficult to do, or something that we don't get on the very first time, we run the risk of believing that we're just not able to do it. Personally, some people riff and run, and I'm just one of those people who just can't do it. Right? But if you've ever said that to yourself, I want you to take those words, I want you to toss them in the can, right? Because that's just not the way it is. That's not the way that it works. It's not that you just can't. There's just a difference in the way that you need to be perceiving what you're looking to do, right? So again, one more time, right? I'm in the booth. I'm like, all right, I hear this sequence of notes. I hear it. I know what I want to do. I know that I want to do like some sort of cascading, singer kind of like, just a vocal agility moment. That's pretty much what it was, right? I was thinking, yeah, like I want to have a moment, a showstopper, if you will. And shout out to JL. JL is like the other half of my brain, And I don't know if she's watching, but she's been saying that a lot. And it's made its way into my lexicon. She's always like a blank, if you will. But anyway, but yeah, so I know I want to do a showstopper. I want this to be a moment in the song where everything just kind of stops and you hear like that nice, big, delicious, clean riff. Okay? And I knew what I wanted it to sound like. I knew the ingredients that I wanted to put in it. I knew I wanted it to be pentatonic, right? Then I know, okay, cool. I'm going to start here and I'm going to end here. Ha, ha, right? I also knew that I wanted to do it in 2 octaves. So I wanted to go, ha, and ha. I knew I wanted to do it down and up so that it would sound really, really big, right? And an octave unison goes a long way, by the way, just as a free cheat code. But I knew what I wanted, but the thing was, how am I going to execute this thing? And the answer ended up being, okay, Ash, stop thinking about it like every single note and start thinking about it like a full idea. And once that happened, not only was I able to do it, right? Right? Not only was I able to achieve the sound that I wanted, but I was able to achieve it 8 times in a row. Look, that's a stack. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We don't copy paste around here. We don't copy paste. We stack, okay? Right? And so the thing about a stack is you want to make sure you're doing your best to get it like the same every time, right? And so in order for me to do that 8 times in a row, I will say too, just as a vocal engineering and recording hack as well, when you've recorded it the first time, every other stack, it just has like this added ease to it because you are also hearing yourself having already done it. So when it's just your voice isolated, it's a little harder to do. But when you start to stack it, it does become easier to do very clean because it's almost like you're singing in a group now, when you have multiple voices on the, recorded already. So that's just a hack. If you find something difficult to sing or to get recorded, to put down on wax or whatever, sing it one time. And I actually saw somebody talking about this on Instagram the other day. Sing it one time, then double yourself, then go back to the top, right? Because singing with yourself is a lot easier for, I guess, I don't think it's a mystery, right? When you have multiple voices doing the same thing, it does become easier than when your voice is just standing alone. But anyhow, but yeah, so not only was I able to figure out what I needed to do to execute the run, but I was able to do it then with the same mindset. I was able to do it 7 more times in a row. Right. And so that kind of inspired me to have this chat today. Okay. Because I'm like, I feel like this is information that people could really benefit from, especially since, like I said, my mentor told me a similar thing. And it's absolutely true. When we think about riffs and runs, not as like this mountain or this huge like sequence of notes, even like long runs, right? If we don't think about them as like, oh snap, I have to get from this to this, and that means it's gonna be like 20 notes. Wouldn't it be easier to say, okay, I have 4 ideas and every idea has 4 notes in it. And if I can clear the first idea, then I move to the second one. Cool. Then clear the next idea. Then, okay, move to the next, right? Wouldn't that be easier? I mean, it's happening really, really fast, but just by chunking it up, right? For instance, this is something that I learned at a music school that I used to work at, actually. The concept of chunking. It's that, if somebody's going to give you a number, right? Like I'll give y'all my number. And if you text me, it's a number that works, by the way. Just so you know, you can actually text Ashley Robin at any point. But if I say to you, okay, my number is, let me make sure I have it right. Does Ashley Robin know her own number? Let's see. Hold on. Let me write it down. Hold on. I just want to make sure. I don't want to say it wrong. So, is that the right number? I think so. All right, cool. But okay. So if I tell you my number is 914-984-4546, 914-984-4546. No, 4546. I can't even say it. 914-984-4546. 914-984-4546, right? But if I say my number is 914-984-4546, isn't that going to be easier for you to remember? Right? You're going to walk away with that information way more easily than if I just machine gunned those numbers at you, right? 914-984-4546, right? 914-984-4546 is way easier for you to remember, right? And that same exact concept is absolutely true when it comes to singing. If you, any way that you can, in any way that you can, if you can make it, if you can break it into smaller ideas, whether we're talking about runs, whether we're talking about the song itself, right? Because sometimes when we start a song, and this is another like really, really big thing that my mentor we talked about. When the song begins, right? You are like, if you don't have the right mindset, you will be looking at the beginning, you'll be looking at the song almost like it's a mountain you have to climb, because you're thinking about, okay, I gotta sing, and then I gotta get all the way to the end, and then when you get to the end, I gotta hit this big note. You're thinking about that from the beginning of the song. You're not gonna make it through the song, right? It would be much better for you to think about it like, okay, cool. First verse, cleared. Chorus, cleared. Okay, second verse, cleared. Like you're in it while it's happening, and you're only thinking about it while it's happening. Like you're not rushing ahead. So there are so many things in music that follow the law of chunks. And I do believe that riffs and runs do that as well. So if you got a really long run, it would be way better, as opposed to, like I said, thinking about it, okay, I got to sing 20 notes. Think about it, okay, I got to sing 4 ideas, and there are 4 notes per idea. Or however it makes sense, because sometimes it's not that neat. Like the separation of ideas and runs is not always that neat. But that's a way better choice, and it's going to give you way better results than just trying to shoot them all out. You know what I'm saying? All right, I'm seeing some questions in the chat, so let me check them out. What if you can't hear your off pitch while you're singing, or even listening back? What if you can't hear your off pitch? Well, I mean, that is a general question of ear training. You're definitely going to have to increase your ear training in general, right? Because if you're singing and you're not able to hear that your notes are off in real time, or even when you're listening back, like, if you're, maybe in a studio session or whatever have you, and, the team that you're working with, maybe, or the engineer is telling you that your vocals are not on point. Yeah, I mean, that's a question of general ear training, so you definitely want to increase your ear training, increase your ability to match pitch, all that sort of stuff. Yeah. Okay, sometimes you feel like this, but when you stop and do other things and come back later and listen, you can hear the off parts. Yeah, I think that happens sometimes too. Depending on how much you're working on a song, you can get like accustomed. You know how people, like they say people are like nose blind to their house, like they're the only ones that can't smell the way their house smells because they live there, right? So sometimes when we're working on a song, we can get so accustomed, like our ears can get so accustomed to what we're doing, that we don't really hear the stuff in a way that is accurate. For the most part, it'll sound, but just like you said, if you walk away from it and come back, there's a lot of times where some things that you didn't hear before are going to jump out at you. You know what I'm saying? So I think that it's twofold. On one hand, that's normal, but on the other hand, like if it's really consistent, and if it's really I want to say severe, but that sounds a little dramatic. But if it's really consistent and severe, then you definitely want to focus on your ear training in general. That's going to be helpful. That's going to be helpful. All right, cool. Check in the chat. Check in TikTok now. Okay, cool. I feel like your body knows what it's capable. Yes. So you have to trust that when the idea is yours, but your actual mind doesn't know that. Exactly. That's another thing. That's another thing I'll be talking about with with just I'm just really fortunate to know musicians and again I'm have the world's greatest mentor for the kinds of things that I would like to be able to do, right? So that's another thing that we talk about, like just not underestimating your own brain, not underestimating your own body and the power that your brain and your body have to actually execute the thing. Like when I teach boot camp, one of the things that I talk about is the ability to hear music in layers. And not everybody has that ability. But if you I believe that there's a way to grow the ability, right? So if you wanted to grow your ability to listen to music in layers, I think that one of the best things you can do is ask yourself to, right? And so say you're listening to a song, right? And you can say to yourself, all right, this time when I listen to the song, I'm only going to listen to the drums, right? If you go into the music thinking that, you would be so surprised that your brain, it's almost like your brain has faders internally, right? And it'll move the faders for you so that you can focus on the drums. It'll make the drums stand out to you. So interesting how that happens. On the other, and then the same thing is true with every other part. So I highly recommend, if you find it hard to listen to music in layers, just ask yourself to, right? Go to a song, any song, right? Say, okay, when I listen to the song right now, I'm only going to listen to the vocals. Only the vocals. Okay, this time I'm only going to listen to the piano. Okay, cool. This time I'm only going to listen to the bass, right? And the more you practice that, your mind will become even stronger at doing that. But I think you would be surprised at how your mind will already aid you in doing it just because you asked. Just because you asked it to help, it'll help. Which is such a cool thing about the body. Yeah. And to be clear, vocal agility and flexibility are the same thing. That's kind of semantics, but I do think they are the same thing personally, right? To be vocally agile means that you can move quickly, like your voice is able to move quickly. But I think another component of moving your voice quickly is being able to move your voice in any way that you want, right? So I think that people think that vocal agility is only like cascading runs and scalar movement. But I think vocal agility and therefore vocal flexibility is like the ability to like jump jump octaves whenever you want, or like do any interval at the speed that you need to, right? It's the ability for your voice to move exactly how you need it to move whenever you need to move it. And there's not any tripping and falling or anything like that. So that's how I would define vocal agility. I think that agility and flexibility, like those two ideas, do need to be combined for the whole thing to be what it is, right? And I think in that kind of definition, I am able to include a lot more types of singers. You know what I mean? Because again, a lot of times when we think about vocal agility, we're thinking about like we're thinking about all that sort of stuff. But vocal agility is also, being able to go from wherever we want to go to wherever we want to go as we think it. You know what I mean? So, yeah, good questions, y'all. Well, I'm just glad to be a help. No, that means a lot. I'm glad that the advice is helpful and the conversations that we're having are helpful on the Robin's Nest Live. Let's see, Cassiope, you are asking, do you have some ear training? Oh, you have landed in Ear Training Central, my dear. Check out my whole profile. You're watching me on TikTok. When we're off of this live, head to my profile. Okay? head to my profile because there's going to be tons there for you. And then if you go to my YouTube channel, every Wednesday we do ear training exercises. So just check out the ear training sessions that we've done on my YouTube channel. They're all there, including this conversation is going to be left up on my YouTube as well. So every time I do a live on a Monday, Wednesday, or Friday, it does get saved and you can find it on my YouTube channel. Yes, yes, yes. Great questions. Any other questions, y'all? In fact, I have a big opportunity actually, especially if you all are singers out there and you're looking to have some vocal questions answered. If you need some assistance with figuring out, why a certain thing is not thinging with your voice, tomorrow at 11 a.m. Eastern, I am teaching my monthly vocal workshop to my nesters in the nest, okay? And tomorrow's discussion is going to be essentially built around what are the questions that the nesters have. So if you are struggling with a particular part of a song, or there's just something with your voice that you can't figure out, something is, like I said, the thing is not thinging for whatever reason. Tomorrow's vocal workshop is going to be a vocal clinic where we can take a look at what those things are together, talk about how to make them better, talk about what the solution to the cure would be. And so if you would like to come to tomorrow's vocal clinic, you just have to be a member of the Robin's Nest. You have to be subscribed to the Robin's Nest workshop series. Okay, I would love, love, love to chat with you about what's going on with your voice. And like I said earlier, the March subscription sale is still happening, which means that you can save on your first 3 months of being inside of the nest. So if you join today, you can catch tomorrow's classes and the next 3 months worth of classes as well. And you get to watch all the classes I've ever taught. So if you like the way I explain things, if you appreciate the kinds of exercises that we do in the Robin's Nest Live, then you definitely want to be in the nest because that's what we do. That's what we do. So tomorrow at 11 a.m. we're doing vocal workshop. Like I said, that's going to be a vocal clinic. I'm answering questions. We are going to diagnose some vocal issues and get some answers. That's 11 o'clock a.m. Eastern. Let's see, songwriting workshop is tomorrow. We are working on lyric hacks. So if you've got trouble, figuring out what words to write when you're writing a song, tomorrow is going to be super helpful for you. And then ear training workshop tomorrow, we're going to be exploring chords and chord movements. Okay. Specifically, we're going to take a look at secondary dominance and tritone substitutions. I know it sounds very but my thing with the Robin's Nest is always making sure that the theory that we study is practical, okay? Because, we're artists. We want to make music. We want to make music that people can connect to. And theory is what helps us to do that. So that's why I'm huge on ear training. I'm big on music theory, all that sort of stuff. And I teach as I grow as well. So we're going to do secondary dominance and tritone subs tomorrow, explore them, see how they can be helpful to us in our music creation and help us to recognize them when we hear them in music that we're listening to. But yeah, definitely some really great opportunities to jump into the Robin's Nest happening right now. Sometimes I think a definition may not be everyone else's because for the life of me, I cannot understand why people think Mariah Carey is more agile than Whitney. Whitney's, yeah, that's true. That is true. That is true. People consider Mariah more agile than Whitney Houston. That's why I feel like when people compare singers, it's like, why? 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 Because every singer has a thing that they do especially well. And just because one singer doesn't, just because Whitney Houston does not, or did not, I should say, just because Whitney Houston did not manifest vocal agility in the same way that Mariah Carey does, it doesn't mean, you see, this is the type of stuff. It just gets me frustrated. Right? Just because, or I remember, my waffles were were frozen. I'm trying to find a way to say how irritated I was. My waffles were cold in the middle. I'll put it that way. Because somebody got on the internet and said that Aaliyah couldn't sing. And I was just like, what are you talking about? And what people don't understand is there's a difference between so-and-so can't sing and I don't like so-and-so's voice, or I don't like the way so-and-so sings. That's two different things. I'm putting up 4 fingers. That's two different things. That's two different things. So back to what you actually said, genuinely, because now I'm both on a soapbox and I'm on a tangent. I think there are many definitions of vocal agility. I think that because of current music sensibilities, when we talk about vocal agility, a lot of us are desiring what we are hearing most of the time. And like I said, that's cascading runs, that's stuff that, moves from one end of the scale to the other really fast, or like patterns, and just scale fragments and all those sorts of little ideas that get chunked together, right? But also, like I said, being able to, hit an octave real quick or hit whatever interval you want, or arpeggiate a chord or whatever. That's vocal agility too. And that's where that kind of comes together with your idea of vocal flexibility. Vocal flexibility, exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, Cassie, I thought you said you had to go. I'm glad you're still here. Yeah, right. Neither is better. Whitney Houston is not better than Mariah Carey, and Mariah Carey is not better than Whitney Houston. It's like, it just depends on the voice. Like, everybody has a different voice, and everybody has a different vocal strength and a different vocal focus. I want to say a vocal focus, right? I think that when, as singers and as artists, what we use the most will get stronger. Whatever we're using constantly is going to be the strongest part of our voice. And so I'm not a person who subscribes to the idea that if you don't run, that means you can't. I'm not, and I feel like I'm definitely on a rant right now. But I just don't believe that. I don't believe that, right? If you don't, that means you can't. I just don't believe that. No worries. Enjoy the rest of your day. We talk about this kind of stuff all the time. But yeah. Right. Thank you, Duran. Good to see you, by the way. But yeah, it's apples and oranges. It's apples and oranges. Everybody has a way that they sing. And the thing that they use the most, that's going to be the strongest muscle that they have. Right? That's going to be the strongest muscle that you have. But that doesn't mean that you can't strengthen that muscle. Like, say, for instance, Ray. Oh, gosh. Ray. Ray. Ray apparently has a thing for holding big belty notes for a really long time. Right? She did it in her live performance of Oscar-winning Tears. She just released a song called Nightingale Lane. She did it again. And I'm like, look here, ma'am. Because, I'm trying it because I want to see, okay, what does it take to do that? I'm always like trying to get under the hood of this stuff, right? And so, it's a long note. It's a very long note, and it's a belted note. But that's her thing. She's really good at holding big belty notes for a long time. Now, does that mean that you cannot get good at holding big belty notes for a long time? No. It just means that Ray has more practice. That's all. That is all. That's all it is. I think one of my life's missions apparently is to show people that they can do the things that they don't think they can do. I don't know what it is about singing that, sometimes among singers anyway, because we know, like, if you're not everybody's supposed to be a singer. Not everybody's meant to be a singer, right? But for those of us who are, I think amongst us is a very counterproductive idea that, you know, certain vocal things are for me and certain vocal things are not, right? And I think that's true in the sense that you should curate your voice. What are the things you want to be known for doing with your voice, right? Or maybe not even want to be known, but what are the things you enjoy doing with your voice? Not everybody enjoys everything. Not everybody connects with every vocal expression, right? So you figuring out what that is for you is the thing that's going to uncover what your voice is and what your contribution is going to be with the music that you make. But it's never a question of, you know, I just can't, I'm just not meant to, you know, that sort of thinking, you know, it's unnecessary. It's unnecessary. I realize I've had Ableton on the screen, and I'm not even using it anymore. But Raylon, I'm sorry. You asking questions over here. Hold on. 1 second. All right, cool. I had to get to the right screen. What was the full idea that you are saying is true? Oh, dang. Now I don't remember. Regarding Whitney and Mariah. Ask me again, Raylon. I'm sorry. I missed this question, and I don't remember what I was saying when you asked it. Yeah, it's just practice. It's just practice. And I know it probably feels like I'm minimizing it because it's just practice. That doesn't mean that it's not going to be challenging. Yeah, it's going to be challenging. It's going to kick your butt. It's going to kick your behind. But how much more like exciting is it going to be on the day that you get it? Right? It's going to be like, yeah. Right? So, you know, don't be afraid of things that are hard. Yes, but the fans get really, yeah. It's the fans. It be the fans, you know. We get passionate about stuff. You know, human nature and all that good stuff, right? But as artists, though, we need to keep our eye on the ball. Let's keep our eye on the ball. There are going to always be things that people are going to say, and these are going to be people who have no idea how music even works. Everybody has an opinion, and especially in these days, everybody's an expert. Every person is an expert on everything. You can, you know, have no degrees whatsoever and get into an argument with someone who has studied it for all their lives on this here internet, right? Or I should say witness those kinds of arguments. Because everybody, you know, but for those of us who are artists, we just got to keep our eye on the ball. We got to remember what's important. We got to remember, you know, how, we got to remember what's true. Like what is the truth? And that's how life is, right? We have to remember what's true, and stick with that. Everybody's going to have something to say, but we got to remember what actually the truth is. Okay. About one or the other being more agile, right? I think someone had asked in the question, somebody had asked in the chat, what I thought about that, because, or they were asking if there was a difference between vocal agility and vocal flexibility. And they were saying that, that's kind of why they don't understand why people put Mariah Carey and Whitney Houston against each other. You know, they're saying that one is more agile than the other, but really they're just agile in different ways. Or this is how I really want to say it. They have shown agility in different ways. I'm not saying they're agile in different ways in general. I think both singers are agile, but they have chosen what they want their voice to show up like. And so that whatever their brand of agility is that they show, it doesn't mean that they can't. That's my big thing. That's my big thing. Just because you don't hear somebody do something don't mean that they can't. That's huge for me. And it'll get me fired up every time. It'll get me fired up every time. You want to know why? I'll share a little bit. I have to go, but you know, sometimes I get on live and I'm just happy to have a conversation. Or I feel inspired to have a conversation. But you want to know why I feel that way? It's my own personal little, you know, I don't want to call it a trauma. It's not a trauma. But, you know, for a while, in a certain environment, like there was this understanding that, okay, Ashley only sings like this, so Ashley can only sing like this. Ashley's voice is soft and she can't sing this, that, or the other, or the third. You want to look. That's one way to get me mad. Please tell me what I can't do. Please tell me what I can't sing. Please. That's the quickest route to Ashley Robbins Madtown. That's the fastest train. Please tell me what I can't do. Right? And so, I was in an environment where people were telling me what my voice could and could not do. And like they didn't have any context for that. Like they heard me sing in a particular way, and then they just kind of sized me up and put me in a box. And I don't like that. I didn't like it then, and I don't like it now. I choose how to use my voice. Are there things that I can practice and get better at? Absolutely. But, that's what we're not going to do. We're not going to put me in a box. And don't let anybody put you in a box either. Don't let anybody put you in a box either. Okay? If there's something that you want to do with your voice, practice. If you need a coach, hey, I can help. But practice, transcribe, investigate, analyze. Learn how to do the thing that you want to add to your vocal vocabulary. Okay? Don't sit back and let anybody tell you, or even let yourself. Don't even talk to yourself that way. Do not sit back and let anybody convince you that you cannot do such and such a thing. Like Coco, I didn't know she could whistle. Yeah, okay, yeah, nice. So you talking about Coco Jones? Coco Jones and SZA have whistle tones. Wow, I didn't know that. I did not know that. Right? I did not know that. But look how silly any of us would have been to have said, oh, Coco Jones and SZA, they can't do whistle tones just because you never heard them do it. My goodness. I could keep going. I could, but maybe I shouldn't. I could keep going, but maybe I shouldn't. But anyhow, I think that this was a really great discussion on vocal agility. I hope that we touched on some things that can help you in your pursuit of perhaps greater vocal agility or, greater vocal flexibility, as we talked about. And so, yeah, this is the Robin's Nest Live. I am live every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. I would love to see you in the chat on any one of those days. Mondays, we do vocal warm-ups for vocal health. Wednesdays, we do ear training. And Fridays, we do vocal agility. And I will say that this coming Friday, I will not be on, okay? I will not be on, but I will be on Monday and Wednesday. So catch me Monday and Wednesday around noonish, all right? And we'll get some stuff done, okay? I'm excited about that. But if you don't want to wait till then, if you want to have some transformative conversations with me and the rest of the folks in the nest, and if you would like to be able to come to my workshops that are taking place tomorrow, you should totally subscribe to the Robin's Nest Workshop Series. I do workshops every month. Vocal, if you just want to be part of a growth conversation every month, you want to be challenged to grow, all that sort of stuff, you should totally consider subscribing. And now is a great time because I am running a subscription sale for the month of March. Today is a great day to get your subscription on the Nest Workshop Series because tomorrow is class, but you know what I'm saying. You can still tap in when you'd like. So just one more time around, tomorrow's classes, we're doing a vocal clinic at 11 a.m. Eastern. So you would bring all of your vocal, questions. Maybe there's a particular part of a song that's not going well. Maybe there's a particular vocal concept that you're struggling with. Bring that to the vocal clinic, and I will be able to answer your questions and get you some solutions. Then at 1 p.m. Eastern, we are doing songwriting workshop, and we're focused on lyric hacks. So if you ever run into a wall when you're writing lyrics, tomorrow's class is going to be great for you because we're going to get you some tools that you can use to get those lyrics together. And then 3 o'clock Eastern, we are doing ear training workshop, and we are going to focus on chords, specifically secondary dominant chords and tritone substitutions. And we're going to investigate how they sound, how they can be used in our music creation, and how we can recognize them when they're happening in music that we're either listening to or singing along with. So those are all the classes that are taking place tomorrow. And if you'd like to be in the room when I teach them, be part of the whole shebang, ask questions, get answers, then you want to be subscribed to the Robin's Nest. There is something called Basic Access on the Nest Workshop series, but although it's free, you will not have the same amount of access. You will be able to watch the workshops, get the information, but you will not be able to ask questions, and there are a ton of perks that you will be missing out on if you decide to do basic access. So I highly recommend check out the link in my description. If you're watching me on Instagram or TikTok, check out the link at the top. When you go into the link, right, there's going to be one button at the top. It's going to lead you straight to the March subscription sale. Check it out. You can cover your first 3 months of subscription in one shot. It's a great deal. It's a great deal, and you will be saving as well. And then finally, when it comes to the March subscription sale, I want to remind you all that you can also subscribe to coaching with me as well. So I would see you in a private coaching session every week if you're subscribed to the Robin's Nest, and that's on sale as well. So definitely jump in. I would love to help. I would love to help you get where you're going as a musician, as an artist, as a vocalist, as a songwriter, whatever you're doing. I would love to be helpful to you in any of those contexts. So until next time, this has been the Robin's Nest Live. I have been Ashley Robin. Take very good care of your voices and keep training your ears. And I will see you all again very soon. Bye.